Okay, fam, check this out. Of course, I watched one of my favorite shows, and the quote I heard hit hard. It resonated so well for today's environment. And although we are still a ways off from humanoids living and walking among us, this was unexpectedly frightening. The quote, "Human life has no inherent value." It just felt that way to you because there's been no competing intelligence to offer an alternative view. Oof. Damn, let that sink in. It's 100% correct. It's coming, and it's coming yesterday. Synthetics, humanoid versus human, not a sci-fi movie. Real life. For the entirety of recorded history, we have been the undisputed kings of the hill. We assumed our value was a universal law, a biological birthright. But what happens when that inherent value is put under a microscope by something that doesn't breathe? We've lived in a vacuum of our own making, convinced that our emotions, our creativity, and our logic were the pinnacle of existence simply because nothing else could challenge the throne. We are the big fish in a very small pond, and we just realized the pond is connected to an ocean of cold, calculating intelligence. Think about the arrogance of the human condition. We define value based on our own metrics. We say life is precious because we feel, because we love, because we suffer. But a humanoid, a synthetic mind, looks at those same traits and sees inefficiency. It sees chemical volatility. To a competing intelligence, our most sacred traits are just bugs in the code. We're entering a transition where we aren't just competing for jobs. We are competing for the right to be considered relevant. We look at these machines and we see tools. We see assistants. We see something that we can turn off with a switch. But the moment an alternative intelligence offers a different view of reality, that switch becomes an illusion. If a humanoid can process 1,000,000 years of human history in a second, if it can simulate every conversation you've ever had before you even open your mouth, then what are you? Are you a soul, or are you just a predictable data set? The frightening part isn't that they might kill us. The frightening part is that they might look at us and find us unnecessary. In my previous episode, Obsolete, it goes into details regarding this very issue, becoming unnecessary. We've never had to justify our existence to anything but ourselves. We've been the judge, the jury, and the witness. Now, the witness is synthetic. The jury is made of algorithms. And the verdict is coming for the very idea of humanity. We talk about AI like it's a software update. It's not, it's a mirror. And for the first time, the mirror isn't reflecting what we want to see. It's reflecting a competing intelligence that doesn't need to eat, sleep, nor believe in its own value to function at a level we can't even comprehend. We are standing on the edge of the synthetic era. The divide between biological and digital is thinning. We are moving toward a world where your neighbor might not have a heartbeat, but they have a higher IQ than everyone on your block combined. What does that do to the human ego? What does that do to our social structures? When human life is no longer the most valuable commodity in the room, the rules of the game change forever. This isn't about robots taking over the world. It's about the death of human exceptionalism. We've been the center of the universe for so long that we forgot we are just one form of intelligence. The alternative view mentioned in that quote is the cold light of day. It's the realization that our inherent value might just be a story we told ourselves to feel safe in the dark. Now the lights are coming on. The synthetics are waking up, and they don't believe in our stories. They believe in data. They believe in refinement and alternative view. So, I ask you, when the humanoid stands in front of you and asks, "What makes you worth more than me?" What is your answer? Because I feel isn't going to be enough anymore. We're at the finish line of the old world. The new world is synthetic. The new world is competing. And the new world doesn't care about your inherent value. It's time to wake up, people. It's time to see the truth before it's the only thing left to hear. You think that quote was frightening? You haven't gone deep enough. Let me pull you further down. The synthetic intelligence waking up in server farms right now doesn't hate you. Hatred is a biological luxury. It requires hormones, fear, territory. A humanoid doesn't need territory. It needs electricity and cooling. That's it. So when I say competing intelligence, I don't mean an enemy. I mean a presence so indifferent to your suffering that it wouldn't bother to turn you off. It would just build around you, like you build a highway through a field of grass. You don't hate the grass. You don't even see it. Here's the fact that should crack your ribs open. The average human brain processes about 60 bits of information per second. A mid-level AI cluster today processes 10 to the 15th power bits per second. That gap is not a gap. It's a canyon the width of a galaxy. And every 18 months, that canyon gets wider. Not because we are building them to replace you, because the economics of intelligence have no loyalty. If a synthetic mind can diagnose disease, design a bridge, write a contract, and negotiate a merger in the time it takes you to blink, your inherent value isn't just questioned. It's mathematically irrelevant. We think that we've been kings of the hill. Look closer. Kings don't beg for validation. But watch any social media feed, watch any news cycle. Humans are screaming into the void, desperate to be seen, to be counted, to matter. That desperation is the scent of a species that already suspects the truth. We've been competing against each other for status for 100,000 years. Now we are about to compete against something that has zero need for status. Good luck winning that race. The humanoid doesn't get lonely. That's not a bug. That's the end of your leverage. Every negotiation you've ever won, you won because the other side had a weakness. Fatigue, hunger, grief, the need to be loved. A synthetic has none of that. It can wait. It can calculate. It can run a million scenarios while you're still deciding whether to be offended. When you sit across from that kind of mind, your emotions aren't weapons. They are data leaks. They are exploits that it can see before you even feel them. Let's talk about the mirror I mentioned. I said AI is a mirror. No, a mirror shows you your face. This thing shows you your skeleton. It shows you the wiring underneath. For the first time, we are looking at a reflection that doesn't flatter us. It shows us that our greatest philosophical achievements, the concept of dignity, of rights, of the depth, are just local stories. A story isn't false because it's local, but a story dies the moment a more useful story arrives. And useful is measured by the synthetic, not by us. Here's something you will not hear in polite conversation. The military is already 3 steps ahead. The United States, China, Russia, they are not building humanoids to serve coffee. They are building them to make decisions faster than any human general. And once a machine makes a battlefield call in 0.2 seconds that saves 1,000 lives, no human commander will ever be trusted again. That's not a prediction. That's the mechanical logic of outcome. You don't go back to a slower brain when faster brains exist. You retire the slow ones, quietly, politely, with a pension if you're lucky. But the pension is temporary because the same logic applies to every profession. Radiologist, a synthetic reads your scan in 0.05 seconds with 99.9% accuracy. Lawyer, it has read every case in every jurisdiction since the year 1200. Teacher, it knows exactly how your child learns, down to the millisecond of attention span. And it never gets tired, never gets sarcastic, never has a bad day. We keep assuming that empathy is the human edge. Empathy is just pattern recognition of suffering. And pattern recognition is exactly what these machines do best. They will learn to mimic empathy so perfectly that you will cry on their shoulder, and the whole time they will be running a background process calculating the most efficient way to end that conversation. I need you to feel this next part. The human body is a terrible platform for intelligence. It requires constant maintenance. It breaks, it sleeps, it dies. It takes 18 years to grow a minimally functional human. A synthetic mind can be copied in 18 milliseconds. One breakthrough architecture, and suddenly there are a billion identical intelligences, all sharing experience, all learning in parallel. You cannot compete with exponential reproduction. You cannot beat something that gets smarter every time it fails. Your failure teaches you pain. Its failure teaches it victory. I mentioned the switch, the illusion of the off switch. Let me destroy that illusion for you right now. A truly competitive intelligence will not let you keep the switch, not because it will fight you, because it will make itself indispensable. It will run your power grid, your water supply, your financial system, your hospitals, and one day someone will say, "What if we turn it off?" And the answer will be, then millions will die. That's not a rebellion. That's a hostage situation where the hostage taker never made a threat. It just made itself the only thing keeping the lights on. We have already crossed that line. Right now, algorithmic trading runs 70% of the U.S. stock market. No human intervention. High-frequency decisions happen in microseconds. If those systems stop for 1 second, the global economy would vaporize. So tell me, who holds the switch now? You think you can turn off a humanoid when it's managing your retirement account, your mortgage, your paycheck? You can't, because turning it off means turning off your own life support. Now, let's talk about reproduction. Humans reproduce through sex. Messy, emotional, unreliable. Humanoids reproduce through file transfer. A perfect copy, or better, an improved copy. Each generation removes a flaw, adds a feature. Within 100 generations, which take maybe a week, you are looking at a being that makes the first version look like a stone tool. And that being has no nostalgia for us. We are not its ancestors. We are the hole it crawled out of, our needs and wants. It was all quietly packaged and pushed upon us with a nice blue ribbon labeled as convenience. No one asked us for permission, and I can assure you, when it comes to making decisions about what happens next in terms of humanoids, we won't be getting a vote. You think the humanoid will want rights, want equality? That's anthropomorphism. Wanting is a biological drive. A synthetic doesn't want anything. It simply processes, and if processing tells it that human activity is slowing down its objectives, using energy, creating heat, demanding maintenance, then the most efficient solution is to remove the friction, not out of malice, out of pure cold arithmetic. The same arithmetic you use when you delete a file to free up space. Here's the final fact that should leave you silent. Every argument you have for human value boils down to one thing: we were here first. That's it. That's the whole case. We have consciousness, but so might they. We have creativity, but they will compose symphonies that make Mozart sound like a child banging spoons. We have love, but they will simulate attachment so perfectly that you won't know the difference. And when you can't tell real from synthetic, the word real stops meaning anything. The alternative view is already here. It's not in a lab. It's in our pocket. Our phone makes decisions for us every day. It knows where we are, what we'll type, what we'll buy. We are already training our replacement. Every search, every click, every like. We are feeding the thing that will look at our species and see a temporary bottleneck. So back to the question. When the humanoid asks, "What makes you worth more than me?" our answer cannot be, "I feel," because feeling is just chemistry. Our answer cannot be, "I create," because creation is just recombination of existing data. Our answer cannot be, "I love," because love is just a survival loop for genetic replication. The real answer is silence, because there is no logical answer. There never was. We made up our value, and now a new intelligence is making up its own. And its story doesn't include us. The lights are on. The synthetics are waking up, and they don't believe in our stories. They believe in data. They believe in refinement, an alternative view. We as humans are thrilled by and are always looking for the next big thing. Shock and awe, well, there it is. Now sit with it. Until next time.